All right. We ready? You give me a thumbs up. All right, cool. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Conversation with me, Dr. Anthony Mattis. Talk to the entities. So this call, it's a quickie, but the reason why I wanted to have this call is because I wanted to share why I chose to become a facilitator in this particular area. And there are so many tools in access consciousness. And, you may have heard me say on some of my other calls, they're, for me personally, they're by far the most powerful tools I've ever experienced in the 20 years as a holistic chiropractor, doing energy work and studying different modalities, uh, different religions, different philosophies, so on and so forth. And so what's interesting about my choice to be a facilitator with Talk to the Entities is that I've avoided it for the last 6 years since I've been an access consciousness facilitator. And I love bodies and I love energy work, and that's something that's always been easy for me. But I had gotten to the point with my sessions where I knew there was more that was possible with sessions and with people's bodies. And a lot of times, like, this whole entity thing would start showing up with regards to what was going on in their world. And I only knew how to deal with it, like, sort of on a surface level. And even though I'd taken many of the entity classes, I was like a grumpy old man in the classes. It's like I sat in the back of the room with my arms folded, like, like this. And I felt like like when I was in Catholic school, when I was hearing about Adam and Eve, and I was like really angry. I'm like, how do they know that this is true? And, I was like doubting Thomas. So I avoided it and I avoided it and I avoided it. And usually when that shows up in your world, it's probably the very thing you need to really look at, right? And to explore. And so I started asking questions like, what would it take for my sessions to become more potent, more powerful? And what would it take for me to take my facilitation with people, even the verbal facilitations, to another level, and to really break through people's strongholds, the areas where they're stuck, their limitations, the things that have plagued them for years and years and years. And one day as I was scrolling through Facebook, I see Shannon doing this 30-minute thing on Talk to the Entities. And finally, I was like, after all these years, I'm like, yes, that's it. It's time. The time is now. And the funny thing is if you know my story, my first wife committed suicide in 2011. And right before she took her life, when I kept asking her, why are you trying to kill yourself? This is so, like, not you. She's like, well, I saw a demon. And for those people who might be new on the call, I'm sorry. You can go to my YouTube channel and listen to the whole story in detail. So I apologize. I'm assuming everybody has done access on this call, and that's a bad assumption. So anyhow, if you want to know sort of the basic and the foundation, you can check out my YouTube channel at Dr. Anthony Mattis. But when I asked her why is she trying to take her life, because this is not you, it's not who you are, she's like, I saw a demon. And I'm like, oh, where? Like running around the house or something? And she's like, no. She's like, when I looked in the mirror, I saw the demon inside of me. Right now, this conversation took 30 minutes. That simple question I asked her, and it took her about 30 minutes to answer me, because she was pretty much in a catatonic state at that point. This was like in the mental institution. Okay, we're sitting on the balcony with, the balcony has this cage around it so no one can escape. And I'm in this conversation with, my 30-year-old wife, absolutely brilliant and beautiful woman. It was like she was gone and something else was in there. And so when she initially told me, I was like, that's bullshit. There's no way there's a demon inside of you, because that goes against our Christian beliefs and all that. You should have like the breastplate of armor and, the blood of Christ, because at the time we were Christian and very devout Christian. She was on the praise and worship team. And I was very angry. I'm like, well, if that's the case, if you have a demon inside of you, then I'm going to go back to being, having a guru. In fact, I may even start my own religion. The hell with all those religions out there. And then she answered me quickly. She's like, no, don't do that. And so anyway, a few weeks later, she took her life. And it's weird because it's like, why wouldn't I have chosen this work? Because one of the things after she died is I wanted to know why. And I know in Access, they say, don't ask why because it keeps you chasing your tail like a cat. But at the time, I didn't know that. So I wanted to know why. Why would this girl who, you know, had a 2.5-year-old daughter, she always talked about the future. She had a son that was 10 at the time and 8 years old. And she talked about how she couldn't wait till they became teenagers and she can guide them through. Like, why would she make that choice? And it's interesting. And here's the class that I resisted the most. And it wasn't really until I started taking the entity classes where I started getting some awarenesses as to what she was dealing with beyond um, the allopathic model, beyond the medical model, and even beyond like the holistic model, because nothing was really working. All right. The medicines they had her on weren't working. She was sane, stable, sane, stable, and sober for 5.5 years with no meds. And that was from all the other work that I had done. That was pretty cool, right? For someone who has manic depression, that was a long time to be stable without any episodes. And so when she finally started getting sick, it was like, and here we are with Suicide Week, right? So it's like a perfect conversation here. Um, she went into a state of hopelessness because she thought she had conquered the illness. And both of our points of view at the time were that we had tried everything. We had tried every energetic modality out there. We had a guru from India, and we practiced his yogic practices. We even had our own personal mantra that we're not allowed to share with anybody because that was our special mantra. So she had her own that she couldn't share with me, and I had my own. I mean, we were like hardcore, right? And then we did the Christian thing, and we spoke in tongues, and we laid our hands on people. We prayed for miracles. So we were like all out, And so when this all showed up, it was like, what the fuck? How did this happen? And so what I've learned is, in fast forward into Access Consciousness, it was at an SOP class, a Symphony of Possibility class that's taught by Dr. Dane here, co-creator of Access Consciousness. And I remember I was called up to receive a session from him. And as always, it rocked my world. And when I had gotten off the stage, it was like this energy, this intensity of energy appeared like right here, like right by the side of my head. And for the first time in 3.5 years, it was like, oh, that's Jessica. Like, that's my late wife. And I'm like, holy shit, that's never happened before. And what she started to show me was she started making me look at the intensity of the illness and the demon stuff and all that. And she's like, the energy of these tools or the potency of these tools actually matched the energy of or the intensity of the mental illness or mental illness. It was like the same. And so it had the power, the potential to actually melt mental illness away. And then I just started to cry and weep because I can perceive her sadness a little bit because, she doesn't have a body anymore, right? So it was like, she may get another opportunity if she chooses to, but I know she's around because she wants to see the kids grow up. At least that's my point of view. And so she showed me, she's like, you can change people's lives with this stuff. And I was like, whoa. And I even told Gary, the founder of Access Consciousness, he's like, yeah, you're damn right we can. It's like, we can melt mental illness away, but the people have to choose it. So here we are just a few months ago. I'm like, okay, what's it going to take for me to step up, to become more potent with my ASB sessions, to become more potent as a facilitator, the verbal facilitation? It was like, it's time for you to do the entities certification or facilitation class. And it just completely opened up my entire world. I called Gary. I'm like, Gary, I can't believe I waited this long to look at this stuff. And he just started to laugh. He's like, well, you get it when you get it. Because so many of my whys have been answered as far as like why she chose what she chose. All right. Because I didn't listen to her. All right. Because as a Christian, there's no way that it could have been a demon at the time because we followed the rules. We did what we were supposed to do. We weren't just Christians on Sundays. We were Christians Monday through Sunday. I mean, we were like all out, right? And then the Bible says all you need to do is have faith of a mustard seed. It's like this big. Ours was at least a grapefruit, right? So I was like pissed off that this all happened. I'm like, well, if I have the size of a grapefruit, how the hell would a demon get in there? You know, that was like my logic at the time. So knowing what I know now, you know, yeah, it's probably more than one. And they were probably really old. Her whole family suffers from mental illness. I mean, from cousins to second cousins to first cousins to uncles. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And so even in talking to Gary about it, he's like, yeah, he goes, it's probably like 4,000 years old. So it's like with talk to the entities, these tools are about empowering you. It's not so that you can see ghosts or anything like that. It's not about seeing ghosts. This is not what this is about. It's about perceiving different energies that are around you. Okay? And it's to no longer make you less than anything or anyone ever again. So the tools are designed to empower you to know that you know, okay? But to also use these energies that are around you, whether they're dark energies, and to remove them and get them out of your life. But then there's other energies. You have entities, you have disembodied beings that are actually looking for your facilitation. They need your help. Okay? And I didn't know this stuff. And that made sense to me when I started to hear this information. I'll never forget when Jessica passed away. And I might be upsetting a few people here who may be Christian, and this is not intended to do that, but this is my story, and this is what I've experienced. And the day that we buried the kid's mom, I remember the pastor saying, now she's rejoicing with the Lord. And I was like, what? I was like, you're telling me that here she was completely psychotic. She always talked about the future. She loved and adored her children. She loved this earth. And you're telling me she made a choice in that particular 10 seconds to escape the insanity of what was going on in her world. And you're telling me she's now rejoicing with God? Bullshit. It was so heavy in my world. And that's what's cool about Access, because Access is not here to teach you how to do something. It's not here to teach you a philosophy. It's really here just to empower and for you to ask questions so you can tap into or access your knowing. And in that moment, I'm like, that's bullshit. She's hurting right now. Just because she doesn't have a body, it doesn't mean she's still not in pain. Okay? She may be with God right now, but she's also hurting because she left her kids behind. And she wasn't able to resolve or change what she had going on in her world while she was in the body. Now, I believe a lot of times she's with me at these access classes getting facilitation, because you take yourself wherever you go, whether you have a body or not. so that's what these tools are about. They're about empowering you to know that you know. If you got issues with your body, the tools that you learn in the Talk to Any Entities class can change that. Okay? If you have issues with receiving kindness, amazing sex, okay, you may be plagued by these disembodied spirits. You may have demons, some of you out there, or you may have friends that have demons, mental illness. Okay, Shannon O'Hara, she's the creator of Talk to the Entities. It's Gary Douglas's daughter. And I think they diagnosed her as having bipolar. She said she would have killed herself if it wasn't for her father, because she would see these entities all over the place. And if it wasn't for these tools, she said she'd be dead by now. Okay, and she's learned to work with these disembodied beings to her advantage. So how fun would that be for all of you to be able to work with disembodied beings to your advantage? Okay, how do you know your neck pain and back pain is not because someone's trying to get your attention, and it's not maybe someone that's in the physical body? Okay? They talk about in Access how every time you judge yourself, you invite a demon into your world and you destroy your future. The minute you judge yourself, no matter what it is, you're inviting a demon in. Okay? Anytime you hear voices that say you should be doing this or you should have done this, that's not you, that's a demon. Okay? These tools are designed to give you your power back. And so that you don't give up your power to anyone in a body and anything that doesn't have a body. Okay? Now, are all entities bad? No. They're just like you and I. Okay? They just don't have any bodies. Some are nice, some are assholes, some are clueless, some don't even know that they lost their bodies and they're requiring facilitation. Some are hanging around you because they know you're aware, but you're ignoring them. So you may start sneezing or coughing out of the blue. Okay, so these tools are designed to start getting you to look at the different symptoms that show up in your body and start to ask questions. Okay, now demons are demons. That's a whole nother area. And we start to get into these things in detail a little bit in the introduction class that we're doing in a couple of days. But in the beginning class, we really start to dive deeply into really looking at what it is that's going on in your world by asking questions and going deeply into, okay, if this is an entity, why is it here? Is it here for me? Or is it here for a loved one? Does it have a message for me? Or does it have a message for me to give to a loved one? I mean, it's amazing the different doorways of possibilities in this particular area. And the only regret that I have since I started Access is that I didn't really dive into this sooner. But I avoided it for all the different reasons why I avoided it. I don't even have an answer, to be honest with you. But something inside my being finally opened up and says it's time to receive this information. No matter how uncomfortable it is, no matter how weird it is, no matter how much it challenges your old religious belief systems and all of that. It's time to actually start looking at this because I asked a question. What will it take to be better? What will it take to be greater? Because my job is to help people get the best results possible as a facilitator, or to create that change in their world that they're asking me for. Okay? Because it bothers me when I could perceive the things that are weighing people down in their bodies and in their lives. And sometimes might be this thing, it might be that thing, it might be this thing over here. But other times it can be these disembodied spirits that are weighing you down. It can be demons. It's not always demons, okay? I'm not trying to make this significant, you guys. Okay, this just happens to be the topic, okay? All right, and that's what I love about Access, because it's like a library of tools to change things, all right, in your life and to make your life better. This is what this is about. And there's enough shit going on in this world, in this reality. And these tools are designed to create a different possibility for you, no matter what it is that you're going through, no matter what it is that you're struggling. Okay, mental illness. Seems like everybody has bipolar now, right? It's like everybody's bipolar. It's ridiculous to me. But what if mental illness was like an aptitude? What if these people actually have a gift? I'm not saying that there are not certain brains out there that are just dysfunctional or truly diseased, okay? Like a cancer in the body or something like that. But like, what if my late wife was one of the most aware people I'd ever met in my life? Totally aware. And I'll never forget the day we were at the skateboard park with the kids, and it was like everything was fine. And she looked over at a couple and then just gasped, like she was like, I'm like, what's wrong? And I took her pulse, okay? I'm a chiropractor by trade, so I know how to take people's pulses. And her heart rate was like 120 beats a minute at rest while she was sitting down. I'm like, what happened? Like, what's going on? She's like, I don't know. I just looked at that couple over there and it was like something jumped off of them onto me. And I didn't have the tool. I didn't know what to do with that. I prayed. We prayed for her. My son came over and prayed for her, right? And her heart rate calmed down a little bit. But then that started the snowball thing. And when I told Gary Douglas about that, he's like, yeah, that was a demon. He goes, and that was a really old one too. He goes, because they could be really nasty. And they come back and they come back and they come back. And then she started this self-judgment thing. So even if it may have gone for a little bit, she started judging herself because she started getting paranoid. But knowing what I know now, she was tapped into everybody else's thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. But she was buying them as her reality. So one of the tools we learn in Access is to ask, who does it belong to? I'm a little bit all over the place at the moment, but it's like we didn't have that tool back then. If she was just aware that her thoughts weren't hers, she could have changed it. So, you know, I get fired up about this topic because I see so many people struggling. What if mental illness is actually an aptitude? What if it's actually a gift? Or what if it's actually a capacity? Okay, Shannon says, not all mental illness means you have entity capacities. She says, but a lot of people who do have mental illness, like bipolar, dramatic depression, schizophrenia, borderline personality disorder, okay, they are very aware of subtle energies. If you're one of those people who are feeling great and you walk into the grocery store and then you walk out and you feel like you just got hit, like, ran over by a Mack truck, okay, you're probably empathic. Okay, you probably picked up a lot of people's crap. All right, sometimes you're just trying to heal them and you're pulling things out of their body, but sometimes you're also like a magnet for their critters. Okay, learning and becoming aware of these tools will help you to not be at the effect of these things anymore. It doesn't mean it's going to stop happening. The more you become aware, the more entities are going to want to hang around you because they know that you can help them and facilitate them. Okay? So it's like, how does it get better than this? It's like you have a bunch of tools, you have a bunch of weapons now so that you're no longer at the effect of these things that you have maybe felt powerless over. She was powerless because she felt like at the time God let her down, AA let her down, the guru let her down, our metaphysical studies let her down. It was like there was nothing left from our point of view. What else is out there? I didn't know about Access at the time. Everything let her down. So she was like, I can't live this way anymore. But what if her illness was actually a capacity? So if you're struggling, okay, if you're always aware, if you're having anxiety attacks or panic attacks or insomnia, okay, maybe you have some little critters knocking on your door trying to get your attention. And the more you ignore them, the more they're going to, it's like, come on, man, pay attention to me. And these tools are not, you know, I used to see this in church all the time, and I see this in Access. And it's like, we make the whole entity thing so significant too. You are not less than them. They're not more powerful than you. It's only because you let them be. It's for all the movies that you watch on TV, and all the dramatization about, demons and all that crap. We just watched this movie called The Witch. That was it's 2 years old, 2015. I think it's on Netflix. But it's really scary shit. It's like, no wonder why people make these things so significant. But these tools are designed to empower you, not to be at the effect of these things. And I'm fired up about this because I see people are taking their lives every single day. Every day. Or people are living lives that are not really worth living because they're plagued by these things and they're constantly at the effect of these things. So what if there are tools out there that can change everything for you? And you could actually use these capacities to your advantage. Sometimes you hear like our greatest gifts are our weaknesses, right? That's an interesting point of view, but sometimes it feels that way, right? So what if your gifts could actually be your strengths? That's it. Case closed. Strengths only, not your weaknesses, not a double-edged sword. Shannon says it's taken her years and years and years and years to finally get her capacities like under control. So you have to be willing to be patient with yourself too in the process. It doesn't happen overnight. But I want you to know that there are tools out there, okay? And there's a variety of them that can help you to get your life back and to create a different reality beyond this reality with much greater ease than what you're already currently doing. And this is just another tool that I've personally avoided. I thought just working on bodies, doing the energy work, the ESB work and all that, and pot and pocking, doing the verbal was enough. It's not enough. There's more. There's so much more. And you may have a child that has these capacities. And they're struggling because they feel like they're going crazy because nobody else can see these entities or ghosts. Shannon says, you know what? Don't worry about it if you can't see them. It's better to perceive them anyway. So if you're someone who's on the phone, it's like, well, I don't see ghosts. I don't see entities. That's just not my thing. It doesn't matter. It's about perceiving them. I couldn't see Jessica, but I could perceive her. I mean, the level of presence and intensity, it was like no doubt in my mind that that was her. And you know it. You walk into a home or a house, an old house, you can perceive something a little wonky about it. Don't know why. Kind of looks pretty on the outside, but you know there's some critters in there, right? We all have it. All children have it. It's just that it gets stomped out of them as they get older. Because there's nothing in this reality that helps to train children how to use these capacities. But there is now. So how does it get better than that? So I'll open the floor to a couple of questions and stuff like that, but we're doing an intro class in a couple of days. We're going to go over some tools in that class. And Sailor Shining Star is the host of that class, right? Say hi. Wee. And then Teresa Thompson, say hi. Hey. All right. So yeah, I'll answer any questions that you have, but on Friday, we're going to actually go over some tools and how to start, dealing with these things in a way that's going to be expansive for you. So what you got for me? Anybody? Did I blow everybody out of the water?
I just want to say thank you because you opened up something with talk to the entities for me that I hadn't really seen before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. And oddly enough, it's one of the first books that Felix, my son, who's 6, has picked up and sat down and read and then said, hey, read me this chapter. So it also clicked. He might have a few capacities there.
Yeah, totally. They do. Kids do. I remember, when I started looking at when I was a kid, I remember perceiving a lot of energies around my family. But what I would do is I would crawl up into a ball and I would try to go to sleep and shut it down. So, and because I talked to Gary, he's like, you have this capacity. He's like, but you shut it down. And he's like, how old? So everyone, just ask yourself the question. Go back to when you were 5 or 6 or 7 or even younger. What were you aware of that your parents couldn't relate to because they were just too busy with their lives? So we all have this capacity. It's just a matter of exercising it.
Are you always in charge?
Yeah, it's a choice to be, but yes.
Okay.
It's a choice to be, absolutely. Great question.
As I sneeze, there they are.
What?
I just had a huge sneeze. I'm like, there they are.
Oh, they are, exactly. But I love the are you in charge question. Are you in charge? You're damn right you're in charge, but most of us give ourselves up to these things and make ourselves less. In church, it's like, oh, the devil made me do it. Oh, it's the enemy. My life sucks because it's the enemy. Really? If you read the Bible, it's like he died for you, right? So suppose, it's like, so you can have a great life, not suffer. I mean, that's certain points of view with the church, but the church I went to was like, he died for you so you can have a great life. But everybody made the devil so significant every day. It was always about the fucking devil. And we do that sometimes in Access about the entities. It's always the fucking entities, the demons, I'm like, no, man, stop giving up your damn power. Stop that shit. And that's part of the reason why I avoided it too, is because I didn't want to get caught up in that. And I realized it's not about that. It's about empowering you and you getting your power back, you being in charge. Okay, but the more you become aware, you're going to have a lot of beings around you, because it'd be like, hey, can you help me out? Because some of these guys don't even know they died. You're going to have entities that died on drugs, that died as alcoholics, ones that committed suicide. You're going to have, depending on different cities and countries you go to, being aware of like what went on in that particular area will be helpful, because you'll know how to have a conversation with these beings to help facilitate them. You can change a whole country with these tools, a whole freaking country. And I'll give you a perfect example. We went to the Netherlands, and I didn't realize, it was weird. I didn't really know much about the Netherlands, but I just didn't realize the slavery that had taken place, and the drugs I knew about, of course. And, and then there was like the plague and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, Julia just starts sneezing like crazy. She had the worst allergy attack I've ever seen her have, like the worst. And she has allergies. I mean, she's sensitive to different things environmentally, but this was different. And then she finally asked me, she's like, would you facilitate me, please? And, and when you're with somebody, when you have a significant other, it's like, you don't want to facilitate them because then they'll resist, right? So I'm like, okay, sure. And I'm like, is this even yours? She's like, no. I'm like, are you healing Amsterdam right now? She's like, holy shit, yeah. So we actually started talking to the children who died of the plague. We started talking to the slaves who died. Okay? We started talking, I can't even remember all the people who died on drugs. Now, when you clear and facilitate them, sometimes it takes a few times with the ones who died on drugs, because at first you actually have to detox them. Even when they don't have any bodies, you have to detox them of the drugs, because they have the magnetic imprinting of all of that stuff. So, but once we did that, her allergy, like she was like 100% better the next day. It was crazy. 100%. I'm like, holy Christ, that's awesome. I mean, it was so bad, it looked like she had the flu. That's how bad it was. So you can change a town, a country, your family. You can save people's lives with these tools. Somebody says, is someone asking me a question there, Teresa, or? You're answering someone's question.
I answered someone's question. I think it was a question about whether the class can be taken online. So I answered that, but then someone else said that she didn't know that about the Netherlands because she's from the Netherlands.
Yeah, I mean, it's just about being aware. But here's the thing. It may not show up for you, but like it may show up for someone else, like because they know that you're aware enough to pay attention to them. And when you're ignoring them, your body may get symptoms. So she may go to a different country and have the same experience, you know what I mean? But it may show up in her body in a very different way. So that's why we always want to ask, who does this belong to? Is it mine, someone else's, or something else? Right?
Do they bother you?
What?
Do they bother you?
Sometimes.
Well, because if you are aware.
Of course. Yeah, that's the point. That's why knowing these tools and being aware, and then you can facilitate them. And then you get to set up office hours and tell them to bring you money. So we'll get into some of those specific stories that Shannon has talked about in the intro call. But I know it sounds weird, so hopefully there's not too many new people on this call. They'll be like, oh my God, this guy's crazy. But it works. These people need help. They need help like we need help. They just don't have bodies. And it's a little bit more difficult to communicate with them because it's not like the way we're communicating. And if they were shitty communicators when they were in their body, they're going to be even, more shittier communicators without a body because they communicate different. It's not linear. So you start to learn with the introduction class, and really in the beginner's class, you start to learn how to ask questions and start accessing the energy of it and following your knowing. Okay, it's really about following your knowing. It's not a cookie cutter formula, but it's just about following your knowing and asking questions and following the energy of light and heavy, which we'll get into a little bit on Friday's call.
Yeah, it's the interesting what you'd said about sometimes we get things for other people. A couple weeks ago, I fell and hurt my shoulder. The short version of that is, as you were saying that, the intensity in my shoulder was increasing. And so I went back to a question I heard Shannon say the other day, which was, do I clear it, communicate with it, or receive it?
Yeah.
And then when I got those answers, then I asked who it was for. And then I got what they wanted me to share. And like instantaneously, the intensity in my shoulder was gone.
Yeah.
Wow, cool.
Just like that. I know.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's cool.
Yeah.
And it's all about shining the light of awareness on a situation, and it can change it instantaneously. It's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, anybody have any questions before we go? Cool.
No, but I do want to add, besides the online class for intro this coming Friday, Anthony will be in Austin in October.
Rock on.
Yep. And he'll be here for an intro on the 13th, the beginners on the 14th. He'll be doing ASB sessions during lunch and before or after our classes. I'm going to do a bars class the morning of the 15th for those who want to do the beginners class and don't have a bars class. And I was asked earlier today, so I'm going to do it. And the horses said, yes, yes, yes. I'm going to have a class with the horses on Monday.
How exciting.
Yes. So it won't be an entities class, but it will be going out and playing with the horses and talking to them. So
much fun.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
fun stuff coming up in Austin and with Anthony. And yes.
You guys, there's so many people, and if it's not for you, you have somebody that could benefit from this work. So please don't, there is a different possibility out there for people that you care about. So come play. All right.
Yes. Thank you
All right,
all.
everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Love
Thank you.
Big hugs to you.